Hello, everyone.
Today,
I am telling you something that sounds strange and maybe a little dangerous at first. Try to stay alone. Not forever, not as punishment. Try it as a small experiment. Try it like you would try a new song or a new path home. I ask this because I have been where you are, lost in the noise, carrying small pains like heavy coins, afraid that silence will show me how empty I really am. I tried staying alone, and it changed me. Maybe it will help you too. When I first thought about being alone on purpose, my chest tightened. I had learned early that being busy was the safest place to be. When you are busy, you do not have time to think about the one thing that keeps whispering in the dark. What if you are not enough? When you are busy, you can scroll and laugh and say yes. When you are busy, you can borrow other people's light and pretend it is yours. I used to confuse loneliness with weakness. I thought that if I let myself be alone, something would be wrong with me. People would notice. They would assume I had nothing to do. They would think I was unhappy or weird. So I kept my phone in my hand like a shield. I filled silence with podcasts, playlists, small talk. I ate with friends but watched my screen. I smiled while my mind ran errands it did not need to run. That is the modern condition for many of us. We are connected, but not seen. We are busy, but not known. You do not need a story about a dramatic fall to understand this. You do not need a life-changing event. Stay with me in the ordinary pieces. The late nights when you are awake and watching people live happy lives through a glowing rectangle. The afternoons when you say yes to one more coffee even though your body is tired. The mornings you pause at the mirror and do not recognize the person looking back. Those small moments add up. They teach you to look away from yourself. So, I learned to try staying alone. I began with tiny things. I sat still for 5 minutes each morning and let my thoughts come without answering them. At first, the thoughts crowded my head like people at a bus stop. They pushed and shoved for attention. That text was weird. You said the wrong thing. You will always be behind. It felt like being trapped in a noisy room with no door. My instinct was to run back to the noise, to pick up my phone, to message someone, to find a video that would give me a quick laugh and a quick relief. But I stayed. I did not move right away. I let the thoughts speak. I listened to them without believing them. I learned a strange skill, to notice my thoughts as if they were weather passing by. Clouds do not need your permission to move across the sky. They do not owe you an explanation. They come and go. The more I watched them, the less they felt like permanent storms. Staying alone is not the same as avoiding people. It is not a rebellion against friends or family. It is a choice to spend time with yourself like you would with someone you are trying to understand. There is a difference between being alone because you are punished and being alone because you are learning. The former shrinks you. The latter grows you. In those quiet minutes, a curious thing happened. I began to find my own rhythm. Without the constant hum of other people's expectations, I could feel what I actually liked, not what would get applause. I remembered small things I used to enjoy. Quiet books, slow walks, the feeling of cooking while listening to nothing but the sound of water. These are not dramatic discoveries. They are small, but they are true. They become anchors when life tilts. When you stay alone, you will meet feelings you have been running from. Fear is the loudest. It will stand up and say, "See, I was right to be scared." Shame will sit in the corner and tell a story about your failures. Loneliness will knock at the door and ask to come in. All these feelings feel dangerous because you have trained yourself to appease them with company or distraction. But when you don't reach for distraction, you learn to hold them. You learn to sit with the pain like an ember that might cool if you don't blow on it. This is not easy. There were nights when my chest felt like a fist. I thought if I let myself feel the ache, it would swallow me. The first time that happened, I wanted to call someone. I wanted to press the button that made the room seem less hollow. I held the phone in my hand and felt the pull. Instead of calling, I wrote a single sentence about the feeling. The sentence was simple: I am scared. Writing that sentence did not change the feeling, but it made it smaller. It gave it shape. Giving shape to a feeling is like making room for it on your bed. It no longer takes up your whole life. You might worry that staying alone will make you disappear. That's a reasonable fear. Human beings are social animals. We learn, heal, and grow in relationship with others. I am not suggesting you cut yourself off from people or stop asking for help. I am suggesting you practice being your own companion. That way, when you are with other people, you are not empty-handed. You bring the pieces of yourself you have gathered in the quiet. There is a harsh difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is the ache of wanting connection and not finding it. Solitude is the art of choosing your own company with a clear heart. They can feel the same at first. The difference is intention. When you stay alone by accident, you are lonely. When you stay alone by design, you are practicing. You learn to be content in your skin. You stop looking to others for the parts of you they cannot give. Staying alone taught me to be honest about my needs. For a long time, I performed friendliness like an actor on a stage. It was exhausting. I learned to say no without guilt. Saying no does not mean you are unloving. It often means you are preserving the space you need to breathe. The first time I said no to something I did not want to do, my heart raced. I expected a backlash, but instead I found a quiet relief. My time was mine again. That relief is not selfish. It is necessary. There will be people who misunderstand your solitude. Some will think you are indifferent or proud. Others will try to pull you back to the old ways because they need you for the same reason you used to need them: consolation in the middle of noise. This is complicated. People you love may be used to you being available on demand. They may mistake your new boundaries for rejection. Be patient. Tell them the truth as gently as you can. Say, I am trying to understand myself better. I need a little space. If someone leaves because you need time, that tells you something important about the relationship. Letting go of people who do not respect your space is not cruel. It is an act of kindness toward your future self. Try to stay alone, and you will find creativity waiting. In the quiet, ideas will come like small birds returning to a yard they know. A melody you did not know you had hums in the back of your mind. A line of writing forms. A painting that lived in your bones pushes its way out. Creativity loves empty rooms. It needs room to breathe. When you are always busy, your creativity is suffocated by noise. Give it space, and it will grow. Staying alone also taught me to face failure more honestly. When something goes wrong, it's tempting to blame the world, to shout and make an audience of your hurt. But in the quiet, you can dissect the failure like a careful surgeon, not a panicked person. You can ask, what went wrong? What part did I play? What can I do differently next time? These questions are painful at first, but their answers are firm ground. The more you ask them in solitude, the less you are swayed by other people's opinions. You build a clearer map of your own mistakes and your own strengths. At times, being alone made me feel small. That is true and unavoidable. When you stand alone, the world can feel vast and indifferent. It's important to name this fear rather than ignore it. I would lie awake and imagine myself as a tiny boat on a wide ocean. The waves looked endless. The night was cold. But I learned that small boats have remarkable ways of staying afloat. They can change direction. They can conserve strength. They can wait for the dawn. You are not weak because you feel small. You are beginning an honest conversation with the world. You must also be careful not to confuse solitude with rumination. Solitude gives you space. Rumination is staying in the same thought loop and spinning it until your head hurts. When I began staying alone, I sometimes fell into that trap. I would sit quietly and turn one problem over and over. That felt productive at first, but it was not. It deepened my anxiety. I learned to alternate, quiet reflection followed by small action. After I wrote about the thought, I would take a step. I would call someone if that was necessary. I would set a tiny task and do it. Solitude without movement can become a prison. Solitude with gentle action becomes a sanctuary. Sometimes, staying alone means facing habits that have kept you safe, but also kept you stuck. For me, one habit was the constant need for approval. In the quiet, I could see how many decisions were made because I wanted a pat on the back. Solitude made the approval less tempting. It let me ask a different question. What do I want if no one is watching? This question changed the small things first. I started picking clothes that felt true to me, not trendy clothes that would get likes. I began studying topics I loved, not because they sounded impressive, but because they opened a window in my head. Staying alone also taught me the value of small rituals. I began to do simple things with care. I made a cup of tea and watched the steam. I wrote a sentence without trying to impress anyone. I took a walk without headphones. These rituals are not dramatic, but they are the bones of a steady life. They anchor you. They show your nervous system that you are capable of calm. When you are anxious, your body believes what it senses. Small rituals help your body believe in safety again. There were dark nights when the loneliness felt like an accusation. It would whisper, "You are unwanted. You are a mistake." I learned to answer those whispers with facts, not with clever comebacks, but with small truths. I remembered times I cared for someone else. I remembered a teacher who once told me I had a clear mind. I remembered a small act I had done that helped another person. These facts are not grand, but they are real. They make a bridge over the chasm. We all collect quiet proofs of our worth. We simply forget them when fear shouts the loudest. Solitude gives you a chance to remember. You will also find that being alone makes other people's voices clearer. In the quiet, you hear compliments and criticisms differently. A compliment may land lightly, and you can accept it. A criticism may reveal a useful truth. You begin to sort advice by who gives it and why. Not every voice should be heeded. Some people speak from their fear. Some speak from their habit. The quiet helps you distinguish helpful counsel from noise. It makes your choices truer. There is also a practical side to solitude that people often underplay. When you stay alone with your money, your time, your decisions, you grow confidence in handling life's small systems. I learned to cook simple meals. I learned to read contracts without skimming. I learned to call to fix a problem instead of expecting someone else to do it. Not because I wanted to be independent to the point of isolation, but because competence breeds calm. The more you can do alone, the less your mind will panic when you must. A fear I had to meet was the fear of boredom. Boredom felt like failure in a culture that prizes constant productivity. When I sat in a park and let my mind be boring, something shifted. My mind began to wander into places it had not been allowed to go. In that wandering, I found new ideas and new questions. Boredom turned out to be fertile soil. Ideas sprouted there when I was not busy covering the ground with tasks. It is important that I tell you about how others reacted when I began to stay alone more often. Some people stepped forward with curiosity. They wanted to know why I was changing. They asked gentle questions. Others stepped back, confused. They missed the old version of me who was always available. The truth is, when you change, not everything around you will change to fit you. That can be painful. It can also be freeing. People who love you will make room. People who do not will reveal themselves. Both are useful. You may be thinking, all of this sounds like a lot. It is. Growth is messy. There were days I wanted to quit the experiment. I wanted my old life back. That is okay. Try again. Solitude is not a straight line. It is a series of tries. Some days you will be present and kind to yourself. Other days you will fall into old patterns. That is normal. The only real failure is giving up trying to understand yourself. Let me tell you a truth I learned slowly. Being alone does not make you unlovable. It makes you human. People who love you do not expect you to live as an echo of them. They want you whole. When I could finally sit with my silence, I found that my relationships improved. I became less needy. I could listen more fully because I was not looking for answers in other people's eyes. I found that when I offered my calm to a friend, they received it like a gift. The same friend who used to be my mirror now became a companion. On a road, we walked separately sometimes and together sometimes. There is a courage in staying alone that is quiet but very real. It is the courage to choose yourself when the world tells you to choose distraction. It is the courage to say, for a while, I will be here with my small pains and my small joys, and I will not run. That courage builds. It grows like a muscle. At first, it is weak. Then, with practice, it lifts heavier burdens. If you are anxious, staying alone may feel impossible. Anxiety will lie and tell you the quiet is a battlefield where your worst fears will win. Anxiety is persuasive. It is also a teacher. When I sat with my anxiety, I learned its patterns. I learned it liked certain times of day, certain kinds of news, certain kinds of sleep deprivation. I learned to meet it with small kindnesses, a warm shower, a short walk, a sentence written to a friend that I planned to send later. These small acts are not cures. They are bridges. They keep you steady long enough to see that anxiety changes shape. It does not always win. You might ask, what happens when you feel truly alone, with no support? I don't have a heroic answer. Sometimes people are alone for reasons that are not a choice. That is cruel and unfair. Solitude can't always fix external injustice. But even in hard situations, learning to be present with yourself can give you a place to stand. It can help you keep your mind steady enough to plan, to ask for help, to move. Solitude is not a magic shield. It's a companion that helps you keep walking. Try to stay alone, and you will learn a small, honest language with yourself. You will learn the difference between a passing craving and a true need. You will begin to make decisions based on clear reasons instead of panic. You will allow yourself to fail softly and to recover without drama. You will begin to trust that the person inside you is capable of tenderness. I want to say something simple. Be gentle with yourself. The work of staying alone is not about toughening up. It's about softening toward your own life. When you are alone, you can be honest about the parts of you that need care. You can make small promises to sleep earlier, to write one page, to call a person who once helped you. Keep those promises. They are bricks in the house of your future calm. There is a moment, after many small tries, when being alone stops feeling like a test and starts feeling like a skill. You can enter a room and sit quietly. You can listen to your own heartbeat and know it will not be the only song you ever hear. You can sit with your pain and find that it can be softer tomorrow. That skill does not make your life perfect. It makes you more able to carry the day when it is imperfect. I am not telling you to isolate. I am telling you to try. Try to stay alone for an hour. Try it for a day. Try it on a walk without your phone. See what you find. Maybe you will find irritation. Maybe guilt. Maybe a beautiful thought you couldn't hear in the crowd. Maybe you will find that you are kinder to yourself than you expected. There is one more truth I want to leave you with. Solitude teaches you to keep your own company when the rest of the world is loud. That company is not a substitute for friendship, but it makes friendship better. When you are not feeding on other people's light, you shine with your own. That light is not bright in a way that blinds. It is warm and exact. It will attract people who like the real you, not the version of you that clings to applause. So when fear tells you that being alone will break you, remember this: staying alone teaches you how to put yourself back together.
The pieces do not come from other people's voices. They come from the small, honest acts you do when no one is watching. I know you are tired. I know you are worried about being left behind. I know the thought of sitting with your feelings sounds like stepping into a cave, but caves hold maps. In the dark, you might find your bearings. You are allowed to be afraid of the dark while you learn to read the stars. If you want a last small encouragement, imagine your life as a long road. Right now, you may be in a crowded station. People push and call, and the lights are too bright. Try stepping onto a quieter platform for a while. Look at the map. Talk to yourself. Plan your next small step. The station will still be there when you return. You might find that when you come back, you do not rush. You move with choices, not with fear. Try to stay alone. Do it with curiosity, not self-judgment. Do it with kindness, not discipline. See it as practice for the rest of your life. If you practice well, you will learn to sit through storms. You will learn to celebrate small joys. You will learn to choose friends who want your real company. You will learn that being alone is not a punishment, but a gift you give yourself. The gift of being known by the person who matters most, you. When you can be alone and still feel safe, you have begun to be free. This freedom does not happen in one night. It comes in small mornings and late nights and the quiet between texts. It comes when you write one honest line and then go to bed without scrolling. It comes when you decide not to say yes because you are afraid. It comes when you forgive yourself for not being perfect and keep trying. Try to stay alone. Try it like a small experiment. Try it with patience. You might not like it at first. You might hate it. That is normal. Keep trying. In time, the silence will change. It will stop feeling like an accusation and start feeling like a friend who sits beside you without needing anything. Take that friend with you when you leave the room. Take that friend with you into your next conversation. Let the friend remind you that you are not a storm. You are a human who learned how to weather storms. If you ever feel lost again, come back to this. You tried. You sat down. You listened. You did not run. That act, small and steady, is one of the bravest things you can do. Keep doing it. Keep coming home to yourself. Try to stay alone, not to be alone forever, but to learn how to be with yourself, and from that place to meet the world more fully and more kindly. You are not broken. You are learning. Try to stay alone and let that learning breathe.